Hello everyone, my name is Tania of Tania Locs and Life. Thank you so much and God bless you for clicking on my video. So today we're going to be talking about interlocking. If you do not know who I am, welcome to the channel. All right, I talk about locs and lifestyle, and I will be talking today on tips for interlockers, DIY interlockers specifically, okay? So if you're interested in that, I strongly suggest that you look at this video in its entirety. And if you like the video, check out some more of my content in the description box. And if you like that content, subscribe to your girl, okay? Hit the notification bell so you will know when I post more content like this. So let's get into these tips. So the first tip when it comes to DIY interlocking, or if you're thinking about it, is I would learn my hair's behavior first. Learn your hair, okay? A lot of people like to dive into interlocking and they don't even know what their hair is like. And some people's hair just does better with retwisting. Some people's hair does better with just being left alone. Some people's hair actually does well with interlocking, you know? Learn your hair, learn what your hair's tendencies are before you endeavor on an interlocking journey, because it is slightly more permanent. I mean, nothing really, you can comb out interlock locks now, but it's slightly more permanent than retwisting, and you don't want to start this process and then regret it. So learn your hair first. Second tip would be research quality resources or videos and do it thoroughly, okay? Don't just look at one video and be like, okay, I'm good, I got it. Let's do this. Look at multiple quality resources before you start to implement this on your own head. Well, let's just get into what are some signs of quality resources. Someone who, easily explains the process. Someone who not only explains the process, but they demonstrate the process, and someone who's consistent in their way of explaining interlocking, okay? Now, I like to think that my content on interlocking is pretty quality, but I'm going to link another video that I always put in my description box for people who just like that more seamless way of being taught. I really think that is probably even better than my content when it comes to learning about interlocking. I'll do that in the description box below. So yeah, I wanted to let you guys know, when you have quality resources, you can make a playlist of it and then you can go back to it and reference it. Not knowing what you're doing before you implement it can lead you down a path that you don't want to be led, all right? So the next tip is choose which tool you want to use before you start the process. Now, personally, I like the safety pin method. Now, I do know that the safety pin method is not the quote-unquote safest way, but it's the way that I've been using for 5 years. And as y'all can see, I have no issues with breakage or anything like that. I have gone through my trial and error period with this method, but I do believe that it is quite a sound method once you know what you're doing. However, the safety pin is one method, but also you can use a little hook, which my husband, he just started using not too long ago. Bobby pins. I've seen people interlock with their fingers. I've actually interlocked my fingers before. People who don't want a super tight interlock, they'll use their fingers. I've seen people interlock with different tools. Just know, research your tools and all that stuff, and kind of figure out which one you kind of lean towards more, okay? Next tip is do not interlock too often. Don't interlock too often, because as I mentioned in the last video, I think I mentioned it, if you either interlock or even retwist too often, if you retighten too often in general, your hair will likely start to thin out, okay? Whether it be at the base where, coming up out the scalp, clean out the scalp, or at that little junction where the new growth meets the lock shaft, your hair can likely start to thin. So that's why it's important for you to know what your hair is like before you start to endeavor on this. Personally, I can go 4 months. I can go 4 months with no breakage, thick afro new growth, okay? Without any damage. But everybody can't go that long. Everybody can't go that long. So the next tip is research the different methods. 2-point rotation method, 3-point rotation method, 4-point rotation method. A lot of people start off with the 4-point rotation method, that north, south, east, west. That's how, when I first learned it, that's what I called it. I didn't even know it was called the 4-point rotation method. But learn which one suits you. From my own research and from questions that people have asked me, the 4-point rotation method generally tends, I'm going to make a whole video on this, okay? The 4-point rotation method generally tends to give a tighter, more compact lock shaft in their interlocking process. The 2-point rotation generally gives, it's not loose, but it's not as tight as a 4-point rotation, which makes sense because whenever you're doing a 2-point rotation, you're only going through the new growth 2 times on each level, so to speak. So I'm gonna make, like I said, a whole video on this, like demonstrating. But yeah, know which rotation you want to use, and I would tend to stay with that rotation at least for a while, because you don't want your locks to be looking all different types of ways because you're using different types of rotations. The next tip is when interlocking, please, like, and this is with interlocking, retwisting, however you want to retighten your hair, please clean the part. Isolate the lock before you actually begin to weave the lock tip through the new growth, because I made this mistake in the trial and error period when I first started interlocking. I can only talk to you from the wisdom that I've gained, okay? If you do not, you can accidentally interlock 2 locks together, okay? I think I did one. It might have been this one. Yeah, I think this is the lock I interlock. I accidentally interlocked together. And over time, this was like 5 years ago. So obviously as a result of like palm rolling and stuff like that, it kind of condensed back down to like a relatively similar size as my other locks. But when I first did it, that thing was jumbo fat, okay? Like it was not, I don't want to say it won't cute, but it stood out. So please be careful of whenever you're interlocking your hair to clean your parts. Like you can use a comb. I don't use a comb personally. Usually you can use a comb, you can use your fingernail, but clean your parts so you're only interlocking that single lock into the new growth. All right. Next thing kind of goes with that last tip is do not go through the same pass consecutively. And what I mean by that is whenever you are going through, like usually interlocking, you go one way, then you go the next way if you're just doing a 2-point rotation. You don't go through the same way consecutively, because that can cause holes. That can cause holes, and for a person who's new to the interlocking game, it can be something that can really wreck your lock. Like somebody who's been interlocking for a while, they know how to mitigate it, they know how to repair it. But why go through that trouble if you know that's probably not what you should have done in the beginning anyway? It'll weaken the lock for sure. This tip is related to the safety pin method. If you are not interested in using the safety pin method at all, please go on and, you're welcome to like click out this video. And I really do appreciate you for making it to this point. But this is for people who are trying to use the safety pin method. So I would strongly suggest you getting an assortment of different sizes of safety pins if you are going to use the safety pin method, because a lot of my locks look relatively the same size, but I have combined a lot of my locks too, and they're different sizes. But you don't want to try to interlock a relatively small lock with a bigger safety pin. That could be some trouble in and of itself. So get an assortment of different sizes so that you can kind of match the lock size with the size of the safety pin that's conducive to getting it in and out of the new growth in a safe manner, okay? So yeah, those are the tips that I have. I hope that you got something out of this. And like I said, I'm going to do, I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm going to do the 2-point versus 4-point rotation video where I'm actually demonstrating the difference between the two, and I'm going to be giving some tips as it pertains to each of those as well. And yeah, that's it. I do appreciate you if you made it to this point. And like I said, check out some of my lock content in the description box below. And until the next lock video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.